So, I guess we'll need to sleep here for a night. Took a room and settled in, and I attended to Monsieur Fogg, providing him with clipped moustaches. Relationships have strengthened. Relations, rather. And then I think we'll depart to Yokohama. Oh, what's wrong with the map there? 3 days. Minus 27 health. That's fine. We boarded a Garuba, an eagle-like flying automaton the size of a small airship, bound for Yokohama. This does not look safe, I murmured to Monsieur Fogg, and I am quite sure the thing turned its head to stare balefully at me in return. Then it began to beat its wings, and we rose up into the air. What is your wish, master? Health? I'm in fine form, but we must make haste. There are many options, but which one we will choose will decide our route across the Americas. Very good. Very good. Thankfully, there were sleeping berths inside the Garuda's hull, and other conveniences besides, but we all had to take turns upon the beds and sleep in shifts. It was positively unhygienic. Why, I could only imagine what sort of exotic and miserable diseases the Garuda's crew no doubt nursed. And our fellow passengers hardly looked to be paragons either. I scarcely slept a wink, imagining all manner of sores and crankers and mites crawling up upon my pristine flesh. Relations have strengthened with Fogg. That's good. He's losing a bit of health. Let's try and attend to him a little. This is quite the fast ship here, right? It's actually kind of a good way to get from, like, over here all the way to Japan to Yokohama. Might have all in all, like, still been faster than going all the way to Vladivostok, I'm not sure. I woke to one of the crew's grinning faces peering in through a porthole. I leapt up in horror, perceiving that said crewman must be suspended outside the Garuda to be so rudely looking in on me. I rushed up on deck once I had taken my sleep-muddled senses into hand, and saw the crew hard at work, suspending an inverted canopy of pale blue silk under the Garuda. "Are you making a sail?" I asked, taking a wild guess. "No," said the nearest crew member with a crack-toothed grin. "Empress Cixi doesn't like airships and the like. The Chinese are likely to try to shoot us down if they spot us." "Sky-colored camouflage," Monsieur Fogg remarked, coming up on deck beside me. "An ingenious solution." "So we are flouting Chinese law?" I demanded. "You are no better than privateers or smugglers." "Perhaps. The Empress doesn't like us, but she does like taxing trade, and we pay tax." The girl tossed her head and flashed another grin. "That's why she puts up with you foreign devils, and why she winks at the airships. As long as we put some effort in." "You have a very political mind for an airwoman," I noted. "My pa taught me to read English for his sins." She barked a laugh. "Name's Lynn Carrington, and while my pa was European, by all accounts a devil besides. Ma's a nice village girl from Yunnan." She stuck her hand out, and I pressed a kiss to it, with grave formality, which made her laugh, and then punch me on the arm, as though I had made a great jest. Scaff room a little bit before we land here. "Carrington," as she insisted I call her, tried to convince me to come out on the wings with her. "It's a thrill like no other," she assured me. "The only way to fly." "I do not need further thrills," I assured her in turn. "Riding an enormous sharp-clawed automaton is already fulfilling my thrill quota for the day." "I don't believe you," she said scornfully. "Are you craven?" "I am certainly not," I retorted hotly. "Then prove it." "I will." I all but shouted, but instead of shrinking away, her face lit up at my words. And quick as a flash, she roped us together and tied one end to a sturdy metal pole which seemed placed for the purpose of securing errant wingmakers. I waited for her to mount the wing and followed. Aware of her greater experience, she ran the length of the wing nimbly, stretching the rope taut between us. I looked at the vista below us, far, far below us. I felt a prickle of sweat as I began walking out onto the wing. I could feel the reverberations of the engine through the metal, and the wind whipped into my eyes. What had possessed me to agree to such a rash action? Carrington laughed. Of course, I had done it. Because I had been dared to. Apparently I am doomed never to learn my lesson when it comes to my pride. Still, I cannot pretend I regretted that moment. I cannot pretend I regretted a moment of it. Carrington and I sat together at the joint of the Garuda's wing as it banked and descended to its destination. Absolutely nothing between our feet and the enlarging vista of Yokohama. I was almost sorry to land. Your character is now zestful. So we've kind of found our courage a little bit here, it seems, huh? We do want to explore first, I think. So where can we go? To Manila? Oh, through the ocean there. I kind of like that. I mean, we've been traveling very northward bound so far, like going all the way through Siberia, so I'd kind of like to stay on the northern hemisphere here. It was hard to believe that Yokohama had only relatively recently opened to foreigners. There was an entire foreigners district not far from the waterfront. It was as common to hear Chinese or Russian as Japanese. There was a melding of cultures and clothing styles. Russians arrayed in their rich colors, hoop-skirted British ladies, and lately of Bengal or Singapore. Americans who'd adopted the coast-like haori over their shirts and trousers. I noticed a Japanese man watching the scene with a look of intense concentration and scribbling in a textbook. I leaned in for a look. He was drawing a stylized picture of the foreign quarters with quick pen strokes, which stopped abruptly as my shadow fell over the drawing. He looked up, clearly irritated. "Do you mind," he said, his accent an unholy mix of Dutch, French, and English. "I'm making a drawing for a woodcut." He was clearly a temperamental sort, so I left him to his work with a polite smile. I do not think he liked foreigners from this drawing of him. Okay. Rather exhausting. More exhausting than I anticipated. What's this? 14 days. Tomorrow at 3 p.m. 4,000 though, holy crap. San Francisco, guest town. Well, that's a lot of money. It's 230, but I mean, we need to cross the Pacific at some point. And I can't imagine it'll get much easier the further we go south. I mean, the longer the distance will be, right? It's like going pretty far north. Takes what, 14 days? I mean, on a ship, that's fair enough. 3 bags, 30 health. Tomorrow at 3 p.m. Alright, so let's check out the market here. Valuable in Burlington, Batavia, and Hong Kong. Part of the engineer set. Part of the urban traveler set. I mean, sure, we can get all this, I guess. As long as we have 4,000 left, then we'll have to draw, like, get some money from the bank, I guess, in San Francisco. So we'll take a hotel. We'll pass the night here. The last light of the evening afforded my master every service. Yeah, we need all the health we can get. We're going to be losing 30 on the 14-day journey. That'll put us at day 40. Not too fast. But I mean, we'll have crossed the Pacific, so I'm actually not too unhappy about that. Arrives next Friday. Yeah, let's do that. San Francisco on the Water Lily. Mild seas. This will be a bothersome option. But the safety harness from a heavy storm set should be of some assistance. So only -14. Enough luggage. It's expensive, but we'll do it. The Water Lily was a sleek iron-hulled ship-to-submarine prototype, captained by a severe American by the name of Wicker, who wore a top hat at all times and preferred tea to coffee, which greatly endeared him to Monsieur Fogg. In addition to the usual compliment, the Water Lily carried an entire corps of brass-goggled engineers and a brace of submarines on standby. Should the captain call the order to submerge, the rumor was that she had been a slave ship, was a Confederate vessel. Was a Confederate vessel sold off to a private concern in the later, more desperate stages of the Civil War. But I saw no trace of a dark past aboard. The crew seemed happy family and welcomed us into their iron-hulled bosom. Converse. Greetings, Captain. Passepartout, what do you want? They say that San Francisco is one of the most advanced American cities. How about Salt Lake City? I believe so. I knew a man who once took a transcontinental express from San Francisco to Salt Lake City. Salt Lake City? What about that? Is a Mormon colony where polygamy is the norm. Alright. So we might go on to Salt Lake City from there. Oh, we know the entire Transcontinental Express all the way to Burlington now. Alright. Right. So then, what's the name? Water Lily. Our cabin, while hardly spacious, was adequate to our needs. One of the midshipmen came to show us how to use the pressure seals in case of submersion, but in all other aspects I looked forward to a peaceful steamship ocean crossing. I was not to be so lucky. Could earn a little spending money through selling some of our possessions. Well, not on board, right? You're most reassuring, Passepartout. So what happens next? The salty air blew cool and sharp against my face as I opened the door onto the top deck. It was painfully early, and the only passengers awake were a group of Chinese laborers hunched miserably near the stern. One of their number was vomiting copiously into a bucket. Why into a bucket, not over the railing? I offered him my own secret remedy, which I had brewed up just for such an occasion. He swallowed it down with a certain dubious desperation, but immediately improved in both complexion and temperament. He thanked me profusely. I asked them about the captain, but with no language in common, communication was impossible, so we settled into playing dice in quiet silence until the sun arose. No real effect to any of this, any of the stuff that I'm doing here. Wondering whether I'm choosing the wrong options, maybe. Special report from Minsk. The French are the worst for short memories. Right. I accompanied Monsieur Fogg to a game of whist with a family of American missionaries who were traveling back to San Francisco for a family wedding. The master began strongly, but Mademoiselle Loretta, the eldest girl, had a sharp eye and won several hands in a row. New round was dealt. I noticed Mademoiselle Loretta slip a card into her sleeve. I blinked twice in pure astonishment and glanced up at her face, which was utterly calm, betraying nothing of the action of her nimble fingers. The minister's daughter was a cheat, and a skilled one at that. I filed away the knowledge for an opportune moment, catching her eye to convey that I'd noticed a little sleight of hand. She blushed with all the manufactured prettiness of an accomplished actress, then raised one eyebrow in silent challenge. Our journey continued on. Alright. I mean, we're gonna be staying here for like another 11 days, right? Greetings, Reverend. Passepartout, good day to you. San Francisco. Tend not to discuss such things. How about Las Vegas? I doubt it. Would you believe it? I introduced my daughter to cards to occupy her mind. Indeed. She's rather occupied by them now, I fear. San Francisco was a Spanish town not so long ago. How about Cheyenne? You mentioned trains. I've been told one can travel aboard the Canadian Pacific Railway from Regina to Winnipeg. Do you want a shortbread biscuit, my dear sir? Thank you. How about Winnipeg? They say Winnipeg is home to the oldest woman in the world, but there's no one who can verify her claim. Winnipeg... Calgary? Have you heard that traders in Ottawa will pay extremely well for walrus teeth from Calgary? Winnipeg Duluth? I have to go. Okay, sorry. Bye. So, Gastown to Winnipeg. Okay. Yeah, I kind of want to travel through Canada now. I spent today in the company of the Water Lilies submariners. They were all hardy men and women who preferred the dim enclosed spaces of the hold to the top deck. Too much sky, one of them said, squinting suspiciously. A crewmate nodded. All that fresh air. They shuddered collectively, and suggested a bracing race to the boiler room. I impressed them. I offered an alternative, having no great desire to sprint through the ill-lit, echoing ship's corridors. The commander, a short Japanese-American woman, gave me a look of scorn. I demanded a test of acrobatic skill, because we've learned that Passepartout is actually quite the acrobat, right? Though the submariners were all fit as horses, they had never attempted to, for instance, form a pyramid or walk the length of a corridor on their hands. I hustled them most dishonorably. They competed with me gamely, but admitted themselves outclassed. Commander Davis even applauded. "Suzumi to my friends," she said, clapping me heavily on the shoulder as I took my leave. "You're not so bad." That's right. How far are we along? Yeah, another 10 days. South of, what's that, Kamchatka? I was climbing the rigging as exercise, of course, and not at all for the purposes of spying on the crew to appease my own rapacious curiosity, when I heard two of the crewmen arguing in a pidgin mix of English and Japanese. I closed my eyes and listened to their voices. Only a few words were audible over the howling of the wind. Shrine, heathen, worship. For a sudden scream rent the air. One of the sailors was falling from the platform's edge. I was unable to look away as he fell. His body lay still and crumpled on the deck, but I heard his scream in my head for days after. I looked up and managed to catch sight of a fallen sailor's companion. His face still and pallid. Was that guilt in his eyes, or merely shock? He slipped away before the captain arrived, and I followed his example. All was clearly not well amongst the crew of the Water Lily. Converse. Greetings, Commander Davis. Monsieur Passepartout, yes? San Francisco, Omaha. You mentioned trains. I've been told New Orleans is linked to Washington aboard the Piedmont airline. What about Washington, then? I find civilian talk tiring. Washington, Las Vegas? Talk a lot, don't you? Okay. So New Orleans, Atlanta, Washington, New York. Probably not gonna go that way. We'll see. I want to go through all the northern countries. The Water Lily's crew held a funeral of the dead sailor, for the dead sailor. I was not specifically invited, but felt a sense of responsibility having witnessed the man's fatal plunge. Captain Wicker led the Christian service with customary grimness. I was surprised by the absence of the sailor's companion, who'd been arguing with him just before his fall. Yet he was not the only one missing from the funeral. Oddly, only half the crew had come to visit their respects. I asked my neighbor about this breach of custom, and she narrowed her eyes. Joseph was a convert, she told me defiantly. The captain taught him to read the Bible himself. The rest of the crew are heathens. They stay away from our godly ceremonies. I'll attend to fog for a bit. Storm. Too exhausted to write a proper entry. Suffice to say we are still afloat. As we settle down for the night, I was struck by an unrelated thought. Monsieur Fogg, the dateline. I've altered our watch already, Monsieur Fogg replied calmly. Did you think I might forget? My master was, of course, correct. With an eye such as his, it was unthinkable that he might miss such a detail. Imagine what might have transpired had we forgotten. Less precise men than Monsieur Fogg might have finished on the 80th day, and yet believed himself to have lost. Yeah, we get a day back here then. Phileas Fogg attempts around the world adventure. So we are like basically a bit southwest of Alaska now. Yesterday's storm hit us with a little warning. One moment I was preparing Monsieur Fogg's shaving water to exactly the right temperature. Next we were being tossed from one end of the cabin to the other. We were only lucky that the bed was securely nailed to the floor. Rain clattered against our hull, nearly drowning out the shouts of the crew. The storm lasted nearly 6 hours and blew us far off course. The captain spent most of the day peering at his charts, trying to locate our position. There is no land anywhere on the horizon. Oh no! We're not going to Hawaii now, are we? Oh, come on! I want to go to San Francisco, please. That sucks. What am I gonna do in Honolulu? What the hell? It's not what I spent like 4,000 bucks for. Wow. The captain announced a change of destination. The Water Lily would now make for nearby Hawaii rather than San Francisco. We would make part in Honolulu in 5 days. Would have to find our own further conveyance from here. Monsieur Fogg's lips pressed ever so tightly together. Rare outward sign of, entirely understandable, annoyance. This, my master said, will not do. Indeed not, sir. I agreed, not even daring to calculate the delay and expense our unexpected diversion would cause. Monsieur Fogg gave me a cool, appraising glance. Captain Wicker has reneged upon his word as a gentleman, he said curtly, before lowering his voice to an almost furtive undertone. Our course is clear. We must mutiny. Opened my mouth to agree. Wholeheartedly, but he continued on without so much as a pause. So to it, Passepartout, use our natural charm. Natural charm. I interjected brightly. Quite, he said, with the agreeableness of a gentleman who has just given his valet a near Herculean task. We will mutiny in 5 days. When we reach Honolulu, make our preparations as you see fit. Greetings, mademoiselle. Fort Honolulu is impossibly beautiful, a paradise. All I know is this, the entire population of Pitcairn Islands was founded by the mutineers of the HMS Bounty. But tell me, I think I will marry a Frenchman. Really? Particular one or any? Oh, any will do. As long as they have the vowels. My mother was in an accident aboard the Congrejo, submersible from Pitcairn Island to Santiago. Want a shortbread biscuit, my lady? Seems wonderful. So what about Santiago? I wouldn't be surprised if you can buy high-grade iron ore in Santiago. You can sell it for profit in Khartoum. Khartoum? Did you know you can pick up engine oil in Khartoum? You can sell for profit in Madras. In Madras? Let me tell you, you can obtain henna in Madras. They will sell for a fortune in Manila. Not that that is of any interest to us. Pitcairn Island. To Santiago, I guess. Maybe we'll end up on Pitcairn Island. My task was clear. I was to foment mutiny aboard the Water Lily. I decided to begin by exploiting the crew's animosity towards one another. Divide and conquer, or so my dear maman always counseled. So, we're still aboard the Water Lily, right? And it's day 34. And what do we do here? Gossip and rumor would be a good way to start, I thought. Though such subtleties might also be lost on the crew of sailors, so I decided to steal the captain's wall-mounted crucifix and blame the theft upon the Shinto crew members. Oh god, inciting religious unrest here, what are we doing? The captain took the theft as a personal affront and ordered a humiliating search of the crew's quarters. The officers destroyed the Shinto shrine in their search, and several of the crew were dragged off to the brig for fighting. Sure. It was with satisfaction that I noted a certain increase in tension aboard the Water Lily, situation I would carefully have to exacerbate if my master's mutiny was to have any chance of success. Next, I attempted to ingratiate myself with the Chinese laborers. We're still rather storm-tossed and discombobulated. I managed to convince them to play dice with me and proceeded to lose deliberately to gain their favor to the tune of £50. Don't have much money left. They were quite pleased at their newfound bounty, and combined with my grace in losing, this seemed to make them look upon me with greater favor. Greetings, Captain. They say King Kamehameha III is a devout Christian. Honolulu, Pitcairn Island. Say several founders of Pitcairn vanished most mysteriously. Honolulu, San Pedro. Never mind that. Some buyers will pay well for jackline harnesses from San Pedro. I had attempted to subburn the obvious targets aboard the Water Lily, but wars were often won by the unexpected. With that in mind, I turned my attention upon the valets and batmen to the ship's officers. Being a gentleman's gentleman myself, I knew the value of a good servant. Conversely, I was also aware of the disruption a bad one could cause. I appealed to them with my sense of duty, to which I felt they could not be immune. A few agreed, but not all. Full time about the airship Reina Cristina from Honolulu to Acapulco. Talk a lot, don't you? Manila? I don't need Manila. To Honolulu. Honolulu to Acapulco. Spent the day putting the last finishing touches to my planned mutiny. It was a matter as delicate, as serious, and the creation of a souffle by a master chef. I spread word of the signal amongst my allies and stayed up late, ensuring every man and woman was on my side was true. Right, so what happens now? We reached Honolulu in the dark. The captain took a small skiff into the harbor with a few of his officers, wishing to inquire about repairs before putting the Water Lily into dry dock. Monsieur Fogg watched the boat for a long moment. "Now is the time," he said crisply. "I trust everything's in order." I assured him it was, and he nodded, having expected no other response. "Let us hope so." With that, my master retreated to his cabin, and I called the signal to arms. The Water Lily erupted into chaos. Everywhere was the clash of sabers and pistols. Now and then I heard the shriek of the officers' sonic weapons, but I was not alone. The half of the crew that followed the Christian faith fell in behind me with a rallying cry. They fought their Shinto crewmates with vicious determination, clearing the top deck within the hour. The loyal officers found themselves inexplicably delayed and thwarted in their efforts to dress and arm to meet the mutiny. The valets and batmen had thrown their loyalty behind my uprising and bought us precious time to establish our control over the ship. The Chinese laborers rewarded my friendship with steadfast loyalty, throwing themselves into mutiny with all the desperation of men and women who utterly loathed sea travel and longed to revenge themselves upon the instrument of torment in any fashion. They lit fires and tore up the already ragged sails, causing some welcome chaos. The submariners, led by Commander Davis, emerged quietly. There was a long, terrible moment when I wondered their allegiance. Then Commander Davis caught my eye and nodded. "We know when it's time for a change," she shouted, driving back any stragglers loyal to Captain Wicker. I saw Mademoiselle Loretta trip up one of the loyal officers out of the corner of my eye. She tipped her bonnet in my direction, a gesture of respect from one player of the game to another. The whirl of the battle took me away, but not before I saw her falsify a magnificent feint and block the gangway to the navigation room. So I guess our decisions turned out pretty well here, right? Also, Mademoiselle Loretta helped us, because we didn't rat her out. By noon it was clear how the day would end. The mutineers raised a ragged cheer of victory. I myself ended up with a debonair scratch upon the cheek, and had somehow come to be in a position of a brace of pistols and 3 sabers. By the time the captain and the officers returned, we had complete control of the ship. They were quickly trussed up and turned to their skiff, thrown into the brig. That's probably a bad idea, right? They're just gonna mutiny on us again. Monsieur Fogg emerged, surveying the scene and recent battle with a calm eye. "Well done," he said, with classic gentlemanly understatement. Still, it was well done, and more, if I do say so myself. So now, mysterious French pirate seizes steamer off coast of Honolulu. Indeed. Now at least we get to venture further without paying any more. I mean, 4,000 was a lot, but we're gonna lose a couple of days, unfortunately. Originally, we were supposed to arrive at day 40, right, in San Francisco. To my amazement, the successful mutineers held a vote and elected me the new captain of the Water Lily. I was delighted. Can you imagine, my friends, your humble Passepartout, captain of his very own ship? Rest assured, mes amis, it was in great part a ceremonial title, which made no particular demands on my seamanship. Monsieur Fogg, though pleased by the success of our mutinous endeavor, seemed to regard my elevation in rank with some wariness. I am, he admitted, as we prepared for bed, somewhat put in mind of Bonaparte. Parbleu! Otherwise, the succession passed smoothly, and I acquired Wicker's top hat as a mark of office. Part of the gentleman traveler set. The new first mate, a cheerful girl by the name of Wang, came to me with an intriguing notion. As you know, the Water Lily is a ship-to-submarine prototype, she said. If the submarines cooperated, or the submariners rather, we could convert this to submersible and make port at San Francisco in 2 days rather than 5. I called Commander Davis, the leader of the submariners. I can see why I'm here, but the answer is no, she declared. I may have aided you against the captain, but I do not trust you or your leadership. May I go? Surely you wish to use the submersible? I declared, I do, but who exactly are you to ask me? Forgive me. You're no captain, Captain. I could hardly argue with that. So would there have been a way to make her do it? Police hunt card sharp known as the Reverend's daughter, last seen in Yokohama. Yeah, she's aboard. We spent most of the day repairing the damage done to the ship by the mutiny. First Mate Wang took care of the particulars with an efficiency that I was loath to interfere with. Therefore I spent my time at whist with Mademoiselle Loretta, who waxed lyrical about the grand adventure of our recent mutiny. I feel I have much to learn from you, Captain, she declared, batting her eyelashes in studied coyness. Oh yeah? I happened upon First Mate Wang holding cards with Commander Davis at the rail of the boat. I wondered if I could change her mind. I mean, 2 days have already passed, right? So... and approached, but at the sight of me, both leapt to their feet. Captain, we were just getting to work, Wang said, and the two hurried off in separate directions. So yeah, it's just gonna be 5 extra days, I guess. Fox said to have crossed the date line. We're making good time to San Francisco, and we'd repaired much of the damage to the Water Lily. I began to feel restless for land, being only an expanse of blue water ahead and behind. My unlooked-for captaincy weighed heavily upon my landlubbery shoulders. The evening, I spoke to Wang about our onward journey, and she told me that there isn't a market to be found in Cheyenne. An interesting fact, though I did not know if it would help. San Francisco in row over gold prices. Right, and now we seem to be landing in San Francisco.